Imagine for a second a workplace where it feels like nobody really cares about what they're doing. If you're watching this, chances are you don't have to imagine it. You're probably experiencing it just about every day. If you're like a lot of leaders out there, you've probably watched all the videos, you've read the books, and you've gone to all the trainings just trying to figure out what's happening and what you can actually do about it. And despite all of that work, your employees still seem to be just going through the motions. Their potential is there, but feels like it's locked away, just, kind of out of reach. I've been there. As an organizational psychologist working with hundreds of leaders across industries, I've seen this scenario play out countless times. But here's what's really fascinating. The solution is not another motivational speech from you or a one-on-one or another round of performance reviews. What if I told you that traditional leadership approaches often actually work against your brain's natural chemistry? It's true. Many of the common management techniques that people learn in either school or on the job actually trigger resistance in your employees' brains, and it creates these invisible barriers to growth and engagement. But today, I'm going to share something that kind of throws a curveball to those techniques. Through the last 25 years of research in neuroscience and organizational psychology, along with the 30 years as a leader in all sorts of companies, including executive leadership in Fortune 500 companies, I've been able to find and use some techniques that work with your brain's natural chemistry, not against it. These aren't just half-baked theories that are going to create short-term change and then stop working. They're scientifically proven techniques that bypass the brain's resistance mechanisms and unlock your team's true potential. Take Montse, for instance. She's a leader in the restaurant industry that I worked with for quite some time. Her team was talented, but they really didn't care. They were disconnected and their productivity was, They got the job done most of the time, but nobody would have ever called them amazing. Over time, it became a massive problem for her that really created some headaches. After implementing the neuroscience-based approaches that I'm going to share with you, her team's engagement scores increased by 47% in just 3 months. More importantly, they developed the kind of trust that really turned them from those individual contributors into this really cohesive, high-performing unit. In the next few minutes, you're going to learn how to decode your employees' internal drivers using these brain-based insights, how I've built and used trust-building conversations that actually work, a scientifically validated approach to employee development that aligns with the natural motivation centers in the brain, and the exact framework that I have used for check-ins that build psychological safety and accelerate growth. So what makes these techniques different? Well, the other leadership approaches focus on external motivation. We're going to tap into something more powerful, your team's natural neurological wiring for growth and achievement. Hey there, I'm organizational psychologist and Fortune 500 leadership consultant Jay Timms. If you're tired of leadership advice that just sounds good, but doesn't really create the change that lasts for more than a few weeks after you implement it, you're in the right place. This isn't about quick fixes or temporary motivation boosts. It's about understanding the science of human potential and using it to transform how your team performs. So, are you ready to become the kind of leader who doesn't just manage people, but unlocks their full potential? Make sure to click the like button and comment "I'm in" or something like that so that I know that this content is what you want me to make more of to help you to become that type of leader that you have the potential to become. Let's jump in. The first thing that I need to do is tell you a little bit about how the brain works. So let me share something fascinating about your brain. When we experience trust, our bodies release oxytocin, which is often called the bonding hormone or the love hormone. It's an addictive chemical that's been shown over and over to create intense levels of trust and loyalty that really are the foundation for people wanting to connect and engage with others. Like I said, it's super addictive, and when we experience just a little bit of it, we just want more and more and more of it. Now, here's what's really cool. As a leader, you can actually trigger this chemical release in your team members and get them to crave it more and more, building deep bonds of trust and loyalty in your employees, which research tells us just increases their desire to deliver high performance work. Something else to understand is that your brain has this ancient warning system. It's called the amygdala, that is constantly scanning for threats. In the workplace, this system activates not just with physical dangers, but with social threats. So things like fear of judgment, criticism, or even fear of failure. When this happens, cortisol floods your system and it literally shuts down the parts of your brain that are responsible for innovation, creativity, and strategic thinking. So your job, in essence, as a leader, if you're going to do this right and get your people on board where they're driven to take ownership in everything that they do, is to find ways to activate the systems that deliver oxytocin and find ways to shut down the systems that activate that cortisol. Here's what makes this approach different. Instead of trying to motivate through external factors like bonuses or comfy couches or extra days off or whatever, we're working with your team's natural neurological wiring. So every time you follow this framework, you're literally helping to rewire their brains for trust and high performance. So here are 4 things that you can begin doing right now to turn on the oxytocin and turn off that cortisol. Technique number 1 is all about tapping into your employees' predefined values and motivations. You see, every person in this world is driven by different things. These motivators have been developed throughout their lives through things like childhood, memories that they have, their experiences, whether good or bad, and things as simple as the food that they ate growing up. These experiences, memories, beliefs, and traumas create a really complex network in their brains that drive every single decision that they make. I know it sounds stupid, but these neural networks influence everything from how they respond to authority figures, how they respond to certain ways of being spoken to, right down to which sock that they choose to put on first in the morning, the right or the left. I got you thinking there, didn't I? I'm a left foot first guy. Ask me why, I have no idea. The only thing that I know is that it is something that I do just because of a neural network that has been developed at some point in my life. Here's the mistake that we as leaders in companies make. We assume that just because they chose to apply and get hired at our company, that their neural networks and desires are similar to ours. It's just what we as humans do. We see someone in our circle, artificial or real, and we assume that they have similar beliefs and drivers to what we have. It's one of those things that we do to generate that oxytocin and create this community of safety around us. We are so confident, in fact, that they're driven by the same things that we are, that we confidently plaster big posters in the staff room that talk about our values. Be honest with me. When was the last time that you looked at your company values and got like weepy-eyed thinking, this is exactly what I needed today to make me feel connected to what it is that I'm doing. Thank you, oh great company, for clarifying this for me. And if you're not doing it, what do you think the chances are that your employees are? 0. If you want to build connection and trust where your employees are driven to excel, you have got to figure out what it is that uniquely drives them. Not what you hope drives them, what actually drives them. When you understand what drives the individual employee, it is so easy then to take that internal driver and just shine a light on how what they're doing every single day is going to help them to accomplish what they most deeply desire. Once you've made that connection, all you have to do from there is just stand back and get out of their way, because they're going to do everything in their power to take the ownership of their jobs, because they now see how it's going to benefit them. Here's a small caveat for you. Every time that I teach this, the audience or my client always says, I know what motivates them. Money, exactly. I'm sorry, but you are wrong. Research suggests that less than 10% of the world is actually driven solely for the accumulation of money. What drives people is what they're going to do with that money. That's the honeypot. So figure that one out, and you're going to build massive trust and loyalty. So the next question then is, how do I figure out what drives my employees? Well, that leads us to technique number 2. Technique number 2 is to have regularly scheduled one-on-ones with every employee. There is a major misconception about what a one-on-one is. It's not a time where you sit down with your employees to tell them how much they suck at their job and what they're doing wrong. That right there is why there are so many people that cringe when I tell them that one-on-ones are a great way to build engagement. Nobody wants to hear that they suck, nor do most of us like to tell our people that they suck. It sucks. A one-on-one is simply a time to sit down with your employees and get to know what's going on in their world. It's a chance to see what they're working on, what they want to do with their career, and to plan out ways to help get them there as fast as possible. You know, our job as leaders is to remove barriers to our employees doing great work. So that's what you should spend the time on in these meetings. Let me clarify something here. One-on-ones don't have to be these hour-long meetings. Some of the best one-on-ones that I've ever had and ever given have been 10 to 15 minutes, and they aren't counseling sessions either. Yes, you absolutely want to know how they're doing, but you don't have to think that you're needing to dig into their personal stories and be their counselor. You're there to help build a plan and help them get to that next level. Listen, I have a really quick template that I've developed with the leaders that I've built over the last 30 years on how to have a really productive one-on-one. It's a PDF with questions to ask and what each question is helping you to get to. If you want a copy of it, just type one-on-one in the comments below and I'll get to the link. Download it, share it, use it for whatever. It's really helped me and my teams get a hold of how to do this effectively. Technique 3 really goes hand in hand with one-on-ones. It's that every employee should have an individualized development plan, or IDP. An IDP is a document that you create with the employee that outlines what they need to do to grow and develop in their careers. It's a shared document, so it's not one that you bring to the table and share with them what they need to do to grow. It's about brainstorming a path and figuring out the steps needed to take that employee to where they want to go. It has been my experience, and the research also confirms that companies who have IDPs for every employee always have greater trust, greater loyalty, and greater productivity in their teams. For those of you who are watching this, who are in our high-performing teams or our boardroom communities, just go to the community page and click on resources, and you can download the template for how to do this effectively there. And technique number 4 is follow-up. One of the reasons that most of the programs, the videos, and the books that you've read have created short-term results, but results that fizzle within about 3 to 4 weeks after you've stopped talking about them, is because there isn't a system for follow-up. Follow-up is an absolutely integral part about creating neural pathways that fire consistently and allow for those habits of ownership and productivity to develop. Your brain is filled with wires called neural pathways. Some of those wires are really thin. Basically what it does is it allows that information to go down it and create change in the next synaptic gap. At night when you sleep, there's a process that goes on in your brain called pruning, where neurons and connections that really aren't being used just get eliminated. When you follow up and create patterns of following up, it's like you double, triple, or even quadruple the thickness of this wire. It allows more information to flow down it, but it also becomes more resistant to pruning. Following up on the one-on-ones, the plans for growth, IDPs, and training and development moments allows that to happen. You should have regularly scheduled meetings for the things that we talked about today. So what do I mean by regularly scheduled? Research suggests that follow-up timelines are different for whatever you're doing, but in general, there should be no more than 1 week that goes by that you aren't discussing the growth, the development, or the corrective action plans with your employees. My meetings with my leadership teams happen between every 3 to 7 days, depending on who I'm meeting with and what we're working on and the barriers that I'm trying to remove for my employees. So have regular follow-ups with your teams to ensure that they build those neural pathways. It's going to totally accelerate their growth and productivity, giving you more time to do what you need to do as a leader. Listen, at the end of the day, being a leader is tougher today than it ever has been. You know, my wife jokes, leadership isn't for sissies, and I completely agree. But I really don't want you to think that you're doing this on your own. Like I said, I've been doing this for the last 30 years. Whatever you're going through right now, chances are that I've done it, failed at it, and figured out a way to either get around it, over it, or through it. So let me help. Subscribe to this channel to get more videos like this. You can visit my website at jtims.com or connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, where I post stuff every day. The links are in the description below. Until next time, stay awesome. We'll talk to you soon.